Our next guest is respected as a painter, educator, and mentor in Boston for over 30 years. His paintings have been featured in many public exhibits, including the National Center of African American Artists in Roxbury and the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. He has been commissioned to paint the portraits of such luminaries as Governor Deval Patrick and Chief Justice Roderick Ireland. We now welcome African American artist and Bostonian Robert Freeman, whose New Works exhibition will be shown at Adelson Galleries, Boston on Harrison Avenue in the South End. The exhibit will run from Friday, November 4th through Sunday, December 18th. This is Freeman's first solo exhibition in Boston in almost a decade. Welcome to Urban Update. Bob, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's
All
nice
right.
to be here.
First of all, tell me, why do you describe yourself as an African American artist and not simply an artist?
Well, you can see by my heritage, I'm African, and I like to have the African American as a part of the title. But beyond that, my family moved to the Gold Coast, West Africa, in 1956. My father went to school with Kwame Nkrumah, and Kwame Nkrumah gave an all-call for African Americans to help build the first independent country of Africa. And my dad was an insurance man. He opened up his own insurance company. Several years later, Nkrumah made him state a corporation of the state for all of the insurance for all of Ghana. They stayed there for 10 years. We lived there for 10 years. And then my parents moved on to Ethiopia to work with Haile Selassie and open up reinsurance federations for several different countries so that the money stays within Africa. The money before was going out to Swiss Re or to Lloyd's of London. So by opening up reinsurance, the African federations can hold on to the money, and the money can circulate within Africa. So African American is not just a title, it's more like home for me.
Okay. Well, now talk to me about New Works a little bit. I guess what inspired New Works,
Yeah.
and just tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, what inspired the New Works was really what was going on in the Old Works about 35 years ago. 35 years ago, my wife and I went to a black tie dinner party, and everyone at the dinner party looked at us. We came in late, and we were very uncomfortable. We thought perhaps our clothes were rumpled or something was wrong. Later, we realized that they were probably questioning us, wondering whether we belonged in that group. Back in the 1950s and 60s, African Americans couldn't socialize with white groups in society, so they formed their own groups. And within those groups, they had elements of the same white society groups of rejection and acceptance. So they really mirrored those groups. So I wanted the viewer of all of these new black tie paintings to feel as uncomfortable as we felt when we approached that table. So most of the work has the eye contact with the viewers, looking back at the viewers from the painting.
I was going to say, now how does your message about middle-class African Americans in New Works compare to the message in your black tie series 35 years ago?
Well, it's kind of the same message, but there's more of an inclusion of African motif. I'm including gold leaf in the paintings this time, and there's more of a celebration of the African side as well as the American side.
Now, let's take a look at some of the works of art and see if you can, I guess, describe some of them to us and tell us a little bit about each one.
Mm-hmm.
We've got photos like this one right here, you can see.
Right. Well, that's a good one to start with because it has and shows the gold leaf, which is the new element in the new paintings. The gold leaf is a part of the Ashanti gold that is also accepted as gold here in the United States, worn by African Americans. Gold not just represents the status and wealth, it represents the sun, the sunshine, the warmth, it represents goodness and wisdom.
Okay, now we've got another one up here you can see. This is another one?
Yeah, and that's a very different one. I approached the other canvas knowing exactly what I was going to do. This particular canvas, I approached not having a clue what was going to happen. And I approached it with a kind of an abstraction. And within the abstractions, the figures were formed, and the figures really informed me as to what they were doing.
Okay, do we have one more? Yes, there's one more.
And this one is probably pretty typical of maybe even the older paintings, where everyone in the group is looking at the viewer, and the viewer now, at least in the new paintings, has to come to grips with whether these people are either accepting them or rejecting them.
Interesting. Now, what about, talk to me about how you approach an empty canvas.
Yeah. It's a strange process. When I was a kid, I used to have a blank piece of paper, and I would scribble on that paper until the entire paper was black. My parents didn't know what to make of this. They didn't think it was artwork. They didn't put it up on the refrigerator or anything like that. I approach the canvases the same way. I may have 8 blank canvases in the studio, and I'll begin to scribble on all of them at the same time. And from that scribble, I might take see an arm or a leg or even a face or part of a face, and I'll begin to develop the people as they arrive in the painting, so that they're always a surprise. As soon as I realize who they are, I start to have, now this may sound a little spooky here, but I have to start to have conversations with the people so that I can get to know them, much like I think writers have conversations with their characters. So as they develop, they're informing me. And at the end of the day, as Hemingway once said, you have to have a pretty good 1-2 punch to send those characters home so you can go home to your home.
Wow, well, you are an artist, I'll tell you. You think like an artist, too. Now, to young people, Bob, I guess, to young people who be inspired by new works, I guess, and the life of an artist, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. I think the advice is the advice that I was given, which is be yourself. You can paint like someone else, but nobody can paint like you. You have your story, find your story, and tell your story.
And again, your first solo exhibit in over a decade. When and where can folks go see it?
They can see it at the Adelson Gallery on Harrison Avenue in Boston.
Okay.
And it'll run through
November 4th?
November 4th through December 18th.
Okay, that's over in the South End.
In the
and
South End.
And we have the website up there as well. Well, Bob Freeman, unbelievable artist. Thank you for coming in, and good luck with the exhibition.
Thank you for having me on the show.
All right. Well, coming up next, I'll tell you why I'm wearing this pink tie. All the details right here on Urban Update.